What if finding out the truth about your own family was illegal? Not difficult or expensive, just illegal. In France, if a man wants to know whether he is the father, he cannot simply buy DNA kit online, spit in a tube and wait for the results. If someone wants to trace their ancestry, discover where they really come from, or search for biological relatives, the answer is still the same: not illegal. Because in France, DNA tests are not treated like a casual product. They are treated like legal and ethical matter. And that has created one of the strictest DNA testing systems in Europe. In France, the issue of DNA testing has never been just about science. It has always been about the family, privacy, and the law. The turning point came in the 90s when France passed its bioethics laws. From that moment, genetic testing for paternity or filiation was no longer something private individuals could freely do. It became something that had to be controlled by the courts or by medical authorities. And the idea was built around a very French principle: the family bond should not be destroyed by impulsive biological revelations. Which makes sense by looking on how often partners cheat in France. In other words, France tried to save its society. This is why French law does not treat DNA as an ordinary piece of evidence. It treats it as something dangerous if used without rules. Under the current legal framework, a DNA test for paternity can only be done in very specific circumstances. A judge must authorize it. The person tested must consent, and the case must involve a legal issue like filiation or child support. Outside of that, the test is forbidden. That means no secret home test, no consumer ancestry kit, no private saliva sample sent abroad, and no using an authorized test in court as if it were normal evidence. In France, that can lead to criminal penalties. So the law is not just saying we recommend caution, it is saying you may not do this. But why such a harsh position? The official French argument is that family life must be protected from chaos, aka divorce, cheating. Well, lawmakers and bioethics committees have long argued that a child's identity should not be thrown into confusion by private testing done in secret. They believe the law should protect the stability of families even when the truth might be uncomfortable. By restricting DNA test kits, France ends up protecting secrecy more than truth, and that can indirectly shelter cheating, lies, and even hidden health risks like STDs. Instead of letting people uncover betrayal and make informed decisions, the law forces suspicion to stay buried, which rewards disloyalty and punishes honesty. On top of that, calling this a moral safeguard feels weak, when the real effect is to make it harder for people to protect themselves and their families. And yet, despite the ban, people still want these tests. That is where the story becomes more complicated. Reports suggest that many French people still order ancestry kits from abroad, even though the law forbids it. Some do it out of curiosity, some do it to find biological parents, others do it because they were adopted and want answers that official records do not provide. So now France faces a contradiction. On one hand, the law says no. On the other hand, the demand is clearly there. And that tension created a major public debate. For some people, the ban is outdated. They argue that in modern democracy, people should have the right to know their origins. They say France is protecting an old idea of family at the expense of personal truth. For others, removing the ban would open the door to emotional damage, family conflict, and genetic data exploitation. And this is where France becomes even more interesting. It is not alone in Europe, but it is unusual. In most European countries, ancestry DNA kits are legal and easy to buy. In the UK, Spain, Italy, and many others, people can order them online without much issue. Germany is stricter than most, but even there, consumer tests are not banned in the same absolute way France bans them. That means France stands out in a bad way. It is one of the hardest countries in Europe when it comes to private DNA testing, and recently that position has started to crack. In 2026, France's social and ethical institutions began openly discussing whether the law should change. The CESE, one of the country's major advisory bodies, recommended discriminalizing genealogy DNA tests under strict safeguards. A parliamentary proposal has also introduced to legalize supervised ancestry testing while keeping paternity disputes under judicial control, clearly suggesting that France's problem is with paternity tests. Behind that "you are not the father" moment is a system that critics argue protects comfort over truth. By forcing DNA testing throughout courts, France effectively slows down or blocks people from uncovering infidelity, misattributed paternity, or even serious health risks tied to hidden relationships. What's presented as a balance between privacy and identity can look more like the state deciding who deserves to know the truth about their own life. In practice, that can shield cheating, enable deception, and leave people trapped in lies they are not legally allowed to verify. As technology makes truth more accessible everywhere else, the real tension isn't just legal. It is whether restricting that access still makes sense or simply protects a system where dishonesty faces fewer consequences. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Au revoir.